How are we showing up in our relationship? As a full cup or an empty cup? How well do we know ourselves? Are we creating a relationship where we feel comfortable to act for our needs, wants, desires, and even fantasies? Are we having high expectations for our partners to know what we need, want, and desire without knowing it ourselves? And finally, in this episode, we'll explore about, do we have a vision for our relationship? Deborah Kat lives a turn-on life as a pleasure CEO. As founder of the Pleasure Playground, she works one-on-one with men who have lived their whole lives pleasing others and are ready to live life on their own terms. Deborah leads monthly classes online exploring the edges of sexuality and spirit. She combined her diverse background, tantra massage, and BDSM to support men and couples to experience satisfying relationships and multiple sex. Deborah is a certified tantric educator, bondage trainer, orgasmic meditation coach, and currently a student at the Somatica Institute. Welcome to the Mastering Life's Relationships and Intimacy podcast with Lucia Gabriela, a sacred space free of fear, judgment, and shame, where we come together to learn and explore how to awaken, unleash, and unlock our inner master self. I am Lucia Gabriela, your host, founder at Nuna Holistic Retreat Center, the Sacred Love Temple, and the Sarasota Dark Temple, creator of Tantra Kink, a fusion of Tantra and Kink BDSM, relationship and intimacy coach, integrated somatic therapist, Tantra facilitator, speaker, and co-author. To learn more about any of my transformational coaching and somatic experiences, immersions, weekends, and couples retreat, visit www.luciagabriela.com. So welcome, Deborah, to a podcast.
I am so delighted to be here. And thank you so much for inviting me. This is a beautiful space to be in. And we get to talk about my absolute favorite thing on the planet, which is relationships. Well, my second favorite. Sex is my first, relationships is my second. But those two definitely go together.
You're so adorable. So for those who don't know you, please share a little bit about you, and then we're gonna go right into the topic of like, what do you think is one of the mistakes that couples, that we have in relationship?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for asking. So right now I live in Santa Cruz, and my partner and I have been together for 22 years. We are not monogamous, although due to COVID, we are functionally monogamous. And that's kind of a new and exciting thing because we get to rediscover each other. But it's taken a while to get here. So I've been really lucky. I grew up in San Francisco. I had alternative lifestyle all around me. I like to say that I learned everything I know about relationships backstage at the Renaissance Fair. And what I mean by that was like, this was this amazing open space where like we were playing and improvising, all day long, and we had costumes and props and we just took this to the bedroom, right? So and it was really fun, and it was really playful, and I didn't even really sort of know that I was kinky, because I thought, wow, that's what everybody does, is bring this play into the bedroom. And then when I was in college, I started dating guys that weren't from the Renaissance Fair. And it was kind of an awakening, because all of a sudden I was encountering all this shame and all of this like discomfort around sex, around kink, around like desire. And it really shut me down. And so, after about, several years of really unsatisfying experiences, I just was like, this is it. I need to learn how to do something different. And I read all of the books. I took all of the classes, everything from the rules to tantra to kink to, how to, if there was a how to, I did it. And so, so that just sort of brought me to this place of like knowing what I wanted, knowing what I liked, and knowing how to ask for it. And then when my partner showed up and was like, we had a lot of chemistry, it was a lot of fun. And then he was like, yeah, I'm not interested in being monogamous. And I was like, okay, I'll stick around as long as that feels good. And 22 years later, it still feels good. And so that's kind of how I got here because, people started sort of asking, what are you doing? What are you up to? And so that's kind of how I started in my coaching and my teaching. And then, I got more more nerdy about it. And so here I am today.
Thank you for sharing that. I love that you're bringing out the aspect of polyamory and like non-monogamous relationship, because it kind of like help us to also see relationship from a bigger point of view, for a different point of view. And yeah, it's interesting. So let's dive into the conversation. When is the one mistake that you believe that we do in relationship?
So I think the biggest mistake we make in relationship, well, is not coming to the table full. um, Not even coming to the table knowing what it is we want and putting everything on our partners, right? Like if you think about the classic stories that we're told and cultural norms around sex, it's like women are not very empowered to ask for what they want, and men are they're charged with knowing exactly how to please us without us asking or having the conversation. And so I think the biggest thing I see in relationship, the biggest mistake people make is not asking, what are you into? But more importantly than that, not ever asking, what am I into? What makes me happy? What makes me filled up? What makes me, you know, juicy and turned on? And it's like, how you see people who are just like, they walk into the room and you're like, oh, I want to be close to that, right? Well, generally speaking, what that is they've, they take they know what they want and they do more of that in their lives, right? Versus um, just sort of going along with what we think we're supposed to do. A lot of the men that I work with are guys that have been like, they've done the thing that they're supposed to do. They married the right woman, they took the right job, but they never ask, what is it that I want? What is it that makes me happy? What is it that turns me on? And so that gets us to a certain point. But then at a certain point, we need to ask ourselves, what am I into? And how, not just what am I into, but what are the things I can do to have more of that in my life? Um, I'll give you an example. One of the things that I see a lot with my clients is, uh, men who are interested in power play, and or they're and they've never really allowed themselves to explore that because it doesn't fit with their idea of who they're supposed to be, right? So we have this idea of who we're supposed to be, and then we try to fit ourselves into that box versus kind of showing up as who we are and finding others who want to play in that realm. What I like to do is start with this idea of um, you know what is what are the things that I enjoy, right? What are the things that make me happy? How can I do more of that? And how can I bring that into my relationship, right? Because the thing is that like what and it takes a certain amount of vulnerability, it takes a certain amount of honesty, it takes a certain amount sometimes of um pushing against the norm of figuring out like, who am I and what do I want? And then then we get to practice asking for it. And biggest of all, we get to practice receiving it, right? Because a lot of times I think we ask for things and we don't necessarily expect to get it. And then when somebody says yes, we're like, holy shit, what do I do now? Right? And so there's this interesting dance of like all of these factors coming together. I like to say that relationship math is a little bit different than normal math, because in regular math it's like 1 and 1 is 2, right? Well, in relationships, 1 and 1 is actually 3 or more, depending on how many people that you add into it. But the relationship is this, I don't want to say, and it's this, it's like this, almost this personality that takes on, that has a flavor of its own, right? So, for instance, it's like, when what do I want to say? So like with my relationship, over the years, we've done a lot. We've had a lot of different configurations, right? We've been, there have been times when it's just been he and I, because that was what was best for the relationship. There are times when, we've both had other partners and nobody, interacts with each other. There have been times when, one or the two of us have other partners and all of us interact together. But there's this guiding principle of what is best for the relationship, right? Because, if I'm just like, well, I want this, and that's the only thing that matters, my freedom, my needs, my desires, that's great if you want to be solo poly or solo dating. But if you're actually in relationship, there's more people, there's more things to consider. And so it's this delicate balance of, coming to the table with my wants and my desires, and knowing that some of them are going to be fulfilled by my partner, but some of them are going to be fulfilled by me, right? Like if I just come to the table, and I have to be able to give and receive. Does that make sense? Like I have to be able to ask for what I want, I have to be able to receive it, and I also have to be able to, like, sometimes there's going to be times when, um when my partner wants to explore something that like may not be very high on my list, right? But it's it's not something that's like an absolute, no, but it's just not something I have a whole lot of interest in, but it's something my partner is interested in. So as a partner and as part of a relationship, I I'm interested in exploring this thing with them just to see what happens, right? So another big mistake that I think people make is not having curiosity in the relationship, right? Like we get to this certain point, and I have to say, I'm so grateful to COVID for this, because I have literally rediscovered my partner. I've literally just rediscovered his body, his thoughts, his desires. Like, what are some of the things that, we've just been on autopilot about for the last couple of years? For the last couple of years, we've both had other lovers that were very, and that's where the juice came to our relationship. But, we had to, or we chose, all of us chose to, stop seeing each other, just for the complications of COVID. And so it was like, I got to relook in the mirror and see, who am I and who is this person? And thankfully, I've discovered that this is a person that I like a lot. I want to spend more time with, and am willing, I'm willing to. So, like for instance, with my partner's a big movie watcher, and I am not. I'm not a big movie watcher. However, I have discovered that if I say yes to watching a movie, I can curl up in his lap and I can get my closeness, satisfied that way. And he gets to feel, he gets to watch his movie, and it's something we can do together. And so, I've noticed that I've gone into places where, like in the past, I would have just been like, no, babe, you do that with someone else. There's not someone else to do that with at the moment. So I've gotten to rediscover my willingness and my I don't want to say generosity, because that's not it. I'm definitely getting something back, allowing myself to be more available to what's actually possible in this moment.
Also, the aspect of willingness. that willingness, the desire to be with your partner and just curl up, watch a movie. I can't believe that you are not into movies, Deborah. I'm a movie person myself. Like one of my favorite times is like movie times. Like we kind of like book ourselves to have movie time.
Mhm.
It is in my family. For example, we watched the whole 25 26 movies for the Marvel series in the timeline order. So we have movie night every single day for 25 days. And
Ah.
yes, and usually those movies are like 2 hours or 2 hours and a half mostly. So we would start at 7 or 8 o'clock and we end like at 9 o'clock and something like that. And that is a way for me to connect with my partner, my daughter, and people who say like, well, movies is not a way of connection, but actually it is. Like for me, it is because we're gathering together, we're watching something, we're talking about it, and like we're looking forward to the next one. And my partner Jacob, he's one of those that he would if you want to get him upset and really mad, you start watching one of the movies without him. He's so
Oh
funny
my.
because he will actually like we watch one movie without him. Like he actually took the what do you call it, the TV, like the Amazon that we have it, like something like that, like one of those things that you put on a TV. So we have Netflix, Amazon Prime, and all those things. And it was funny that he just took it because he's like, I'm gonna take it with me, that way you guys don't watch it without me. And that would be one of the ways that he will get triggered, because he will feel missed out, like left out.
Mm.
He will feel like, not important, not significant. So believe it or not, a lot of our needs get fulfilled when we are together as a family watching movie time.
Oh, absolutely. No, I totally, and I love that that's a thing. And it's funny because I will say that we have gotten into a couple of different series. Like we watched, oh gosh, I can't remember what was called, but like we definitely have gone on series things like, oh, I know. So Tiffany Haddish's She Ready and then They Ready were two series that we both watched. And then like you said, we've got this context to talk about of like, who did we like, which of the comedians really struck us. And then, in that particular series, we just were really interested in the fact that, like, there is this way that this performer, um, you know, basically got famous and then turned around and was like, hey, I'm taking you with me. And just like, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean in community? And what does that mean in society when we can actually take our success and support others? Um, and how important that is, and like that actually was one of the things that really we really started talking a lot about, is like, what are the things we want to support in, what do we want to take our relationship to support, right? So
Yeah,
so
that's a
yeah.
beautiful point that you're bringing up. Is like one of the things I share with my clients and I teach is that, like, we come to create partnership. Like when we're in a relationship, we all are in relationship. Like we are relating. Like right now, I'm relating with you. We're relating with the audience. We are relating. But when we come together to create partnership, like intimate partnership, parenting partnership, business partnership, traveling partnership, you know, it is really important to pay attention that we come to co-create something together, and it's a co-creation. And when we create a business and we have other partners coming into the business, we have a vision, we have a mission, a statement, we have values, we have so much in place to create something, not just for ourselves but also for the community. So I feel like in relationship I look at it the same way, where it's like when we come together with another individual, or even if we have a three or four or five or six or seven or 10, doesn't matter, but like what it is that we are co-creating together, not just for ourselves but for our children and for the community
Mm,
that we are involved with. And
absolutely,
to me that's
absolutely.
really important, to come from that level of consciousness and awareness, because now you're coming from the mindset of like we are creating a structure and a foundation for this partnership to grow. and to leave something to future generations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I love that. And it's funny, one of the questions that I like to ask uh, my guys is like, are you somebody who wants to build the castle with a partner, or do you want to build the castle and find your queen and invite her in? And it's kind of like, what kind, it kind of goes to what you were just talking about, is it's like, are we creating our vision together, or are you joining me in my vision? And sometimes, like, the vision for the relationship is, conscious expansion. Sometimes it is child raising and, creating that really yummy safe home space. Sometimes it's, the consolidation of property. And it's just a good thing to know, like, what kind of relationship you're in. And sometimes that doesn't actually reveal itself until you're in process, right? Like, I think that new relationship energy, we get so caught up in it, which is a wonderful thing, right? But it's not the best place to make like long-term life decisions from, right? Like, new relationship energy, the energy when two people come together, is about creating that connection there. It's about cementing that connection. It's not necessarily long-term vision. And which is kind of funny, because in my opinion, in my experience, that relationship energy sticks around for about 18 months, and most of us make choices around that relationship within the first 8 to 12 months. So we're kind of making these relationship choices, under the influence, if you will. um, but again, that's why it's sort of important to know what it is, that you're into and what you're looking for as you're stepping into relationship. And again, as you step into this relationship, am I full, am I actually capable of of giving to my partner, of giving to the relationship everything I want to give? And, that's kind of an edgy question to ask yourself, because at different times and points in our lives, we're not able to be 100% available to a relationship. A lot of people, when they are building careers, their energy is in building. It's not in that home space, unless both people are committed to whatever it is they're building. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you bring in such a great point because we do go through cycles in the relationship. And I feel like one of the mistakes that we also have in relationship is that we don't understand and value the cycles that our relationship goes through, the cycles of, the spring, like summer, fall, and winter, right? So it's like the spring aspect of it would be like the newness of the relationship. Like everything is fun, everything is new, everything is pretty. It's like it's cool, it's fresh, it's like it's fun, it's exciting. And then we have summer, right? Like, and then we go into the whole aspect of the metaphor, and we can go into a stage where we're like in hibernation time, like with the winter time. And many times I feel like one of the things that can happen in that stage of the relationship is that we feel like we don't have time and energy and resources to provide and give to our partners. That is our time for us to come back to ourselves. So when we come back to spring, we're like, here am I, here I am again for you and for the relationship, and come back again to when it's winter time to like, okay, this is like time to take care of myself, time to recharge, time to like come in and like, cuddle up with you with and do the chemical work that we need. And then we go back into the springtime in the relationship. And I feel like we judge ourselves so much when we are in the winter, full winter time of our cycles of our relationship. And when we don't communicate, and I love that you're bringing communication back into it, because there's an art of communication, and especially there's an art for asking what we
Mm.
want, asking what we desire, what our needs are, what our fantasies are, what a turn on are. And many times we don't give ourselves permission to ask. We don't value, what we need, what we desire. what we dream of, like we don't value it as well. And then we self-sabotage ourselves. And then we assume and we presume that the person that we're with, they don't care about it. Like they're not like they cannot read our mind, and we expect them to read our mind when it's our responsibility to communicate clearly all of the things that we just we need, desire, that we must have in the relationship, that we desire to explore. I remember these women sharing, and I think like it comes a lot for women, you know, and she said something that like I was like my whole body like broke into pieces of sadness, because I was like, oh my God, like she's not just talking for herself, like she's talking for a great majority of the population. She said, um, I didn't think my need and my desires matter.
Ugh.
And I was
Ugh.
like she's like, I didn't think my needs and my desires matter. It was like a big cold shower that like I was like, it was such a awakening of like, a realization for us to understand that when it comes to need and desires, especially desires, many times we think that they don't matter.
Sorry, the thing about that is that like I think, as people, as human beings, like when we get to fulfill someone else's desire, it's really kind of a gift, right? I like to say that it is a gift to ask for something, because the other person gets to say yes, and the other person gets to add to your happiness. And then, there's a synergy that happens. Like, when I give to you and you fully receive me, then you give to me because you fully received me. And it's this kind of weird thing that we don't that we don't really think about. But it's like, so one of the things that one of the places where I suggest people think is about, like, the love languages. This is a piece about really knowing yourself. It's like, how do you give and receive love?
Hmm.
And letting your partner know that, right? And knowing your partners. Because, like, for instance, my love language is acts of service, and my partner's is words of affirmation. And so for like the first, 8 months of our relationship, while we were, basically new relationship energy, like I would bring him this cup of chai in the morning. And this cup of chai represented my love and my blessings and my, just like everything I wanted to give to him and for him to have. And he was receiving a cup of tea, right? And didn't understand why I was mad, because there wasn't enough gratitude there. And I didn't understand why he didn't understand. Well, when I started actually being able to add words in and telling him, I love and appreciate you and want you to have an amazing day, he was able to receive both of those things and give it back to me in a way that I could understand and I could feel love. And like, over the years, it's kind of become sort of a game, where like he'll take out the trash and he'll make sure that I know that he's taking out the trash, so I can appropriately, worship him with my words. And so he gets his need for words filled. I get my need for service filled. We both feel filled up. We both feel, happy, and, we're much more willing to play in those aspects. Like if he asks me to watch a movie after he's taken out the trash, he has a much higher chance of getting a yes.
You sure, Deborah. Thank you. It's great information. I would say, like, to wrap it up, is about the art of asking, the power of asking, and the gift of asking. So I think like it has
Mm.
been such an incredible conversation. Thank you so much, Debbie, for joining us today. How the people can get in touch with you and connect with you if they want to learn more from you?
Absolutely. So the easiest thing to do is to go to my website, deborahkat.com, and that's DeborahKat.com. And I'm happy. I offer a free freedom and clarity session, which is a great way for us to get to know each other, and for you to walk away with some thoughts to play with in your own relationship. And again, I just want to thank you so much for having me. It's been amazing to talk with you. I really appreciate, that you are such a great combination of, the spirit and the kink and the body and the sovereignty. And like, I just love what you're up to in the world. And it's been such an honor to get to spend some time with you today.
Thank you so much. I love you, Deborah. I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today to another incredible, amazing episodes here at Mastering Life, Relationship, and Intimacy with Lucia Gabriela. And I see you next time.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode. And remember, you are a powerful, incredible, and delicious creator and master of your life. Loving you, and see you next time.